Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a nice, relaxing, and reflective Labor Day. Today we're going to talk a little bit about modal mixture. Now I released a chapter about sort of an introduction to modal mixture earlier last week, and today we're going to talk. I'll just go over more or less sort of the same material, and I have another chapter from a different textbook that I'm going to be uploading later that gets a little bit more in depth and talks about some voice leading aspects. But today it's just going to be a little bit more just an introduction to some voice leading ideas. So the first thing we want to do is grab out a piece of staff paper and a pencil, as usual. It's always better to write stuff out. It just gets us into the mix of writing things and retaining it that way. I'm a very tactile person, so writing it helps me do things. Like if I don't make myself a note about something I have to do later, I'll wake up 2 days later going, oh my God, I didn't do that thing. So for us tactile people, it's good to write it out. So let's get a piece of staff paper out and a pencil, and let's get started. So what we want to do is we want to set up two treble clefs, one at the bottom with no sharps, no flats, C major, our demonstration key, and the one right above it, let's go ahead and go for E flat major, so 3 flats, which as we know, also is the key signature for C minor. Now the big thing with modal mixture is what they're doing is that they're taking or borrowing chord tones from a parallel mode. So what that means is a parallel mode would be C minor is the parallel mode of C major and vice versa. A minor would be the parallel mode of A major and so forth. So really it's just the major version and the minor version. We're going to see a lot of borrowing from the minor mode into a major key piece. It's a lot more dramatic, and in some of the kind of romantic lieder that we're going to be checking out, particularly Schubert, Mendelssohn, we're going to be seeing that used quite a bit to a dramatic extent with some text painting, where composers are really trying to emphasize certain text, and usually it's about sadness, but they're using some of these borrowed chords from the parallel minor mode into a major key, just to kind of give it a little bit more oomph. It's sort of a coloration. But there's still a function, though. As you may have read, a lot of these chords that are borrowed are of a predominant function. So they usually are kind of colorations and add a little bit more flair, a little bit more chromaticism, a little bit more drama to push into our dominant chord, leads back to the tonic. So we have our staff paper out, we have C major set up and C minor right above it. Now let's write out our scale, set up the triads as we've done before. I've kind of gone ahead and done this. I don't think anyone wants to watch me just write for a few minutes. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Now, if we look, so our one chord, we will sometimes see that, still having problems with the, get my face in. We're still going to see this one chord swapped out often for a minor 1. In this one, it's kind of interesting because this is done a little bit more freely than the other chromatic modal mixture kind of predominant things. This one is done just sort of as a way for composers to set up a bit of like ambiguity. Like I know Franz Schubert uses this a lot, where he'll set up a piece and he'll imply a major 1 and a minor 1, kind of trading them off, just setting up this kind of unbalanced, sort of harmonically ambiguous feel, where he can kind of freely mix things from the parallel minor mode. Now let's take a look at 2. Now here's where we get into one of our big chromatic predominant chords, and an important chord at that, because this is the foundation for some of the other chromatic predominant chords that we're going to see later in the semester, namely the Neapolitan chord. So what we have here is a 2 chord, flannel Jane 2, so D minor. Now if we take that A, as we can see, that's the only thing different in the C minor. Instead of an A, it is a flat. Now if we take that and apply it to that D minor, that then gives us a 2 diminished chord. Now we're going to see this quite a bit as a modal mixture predominant chord. Let's move on to 3. 3, we take our E minor And if we look at what we have in C minor, we notice that the E is not an E anymore. It's an E flat. G stays the same, and B is not a B anymore. It's a B flat. So really, this 3, if we're going to use it as a modal mixture, and we're applying that E flat, our 3rd scale degree, we're lowering it. G stays the same. The 7th scale degree, we're lowering it to a flat 7. We get a flat 3. And this is what we'll be seeing. Okay. Flat 3. All right. So now let's go on to the other most important, the second most important, I would say, chromatic sort of modal mixture predominant chord, and that'd be minor 4. And we may note that for here, F, A, C for C major, just an F major chord. The only difference here again is just that A. It's gone from A to A flat. So with these 2 chords, the 2 chord, so 2 diminished, and the full chord becoming a minor 4. The most important note here, the difference is, oh, I keep bringing this up, bringing it down. I gotta figure out what I want to do. Is this flat 6 scale degree? Now, why would this scale degree be so prevalent and so found? If you think about it, it's only a half step above our 5th scale degree. So this gives us naturally a very strong push to that 5th scale degree. And we may note that 5th scale degree for functional tonal music, as we are still studying functional tonal music, is really important because this is the foundation of our dominant chord. There's a few other reasons why this flat 6 scale degree pops up so much. The other one being that it is the least likely to undermine the integrity of the key and mode. Say, for example, if we look at some of the other notes from our parallel minor mode, E flat, that totally takes us into C minor, like flat out. B flat, that's introduced, that's moving us, if we were apply B flat to C major, we're thinking of a secondary dominant. That's pulling us into sort of a 5 or 4. So that's a way for us to move into that predominant harmony. So that kind of moves us away. But flat 6, it doesn't really pull us too far away from the key of C major. It's a cool coloration within a major key, a flat 6. We're going to see that a lot. It's just a cool, and it's mostly because of that strong pull down to that 5th scale degree. And the other thing, as I mentioned before, that flat 6 is a part of both of our predominant harmonies, the diminished 2 and the minor 4. It's a big part of it. It's really the only difference between the chords in the parallel minor mode and just the standard 2 chord and the 4 chord. It's really the only difference is that flat 6. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about are our other 2 chords that we'll see in modal mixture. And that's going to be our flat 3, so E flat major in the context of C major. This is what we'll find not as often as the predominant harmonies, but we will see it. In this one, we have that flat 7 and we have the flat 3. Now, the flat 7, we think of a half step here. Where is this a half step away from? Flat 7, we can move to 6, so B flat to A, that would work. But thinking of the grand scheme of how this music usually is pushing towards the dominant, that flat 7 typically moves up to our raised 7, our leading tone, and then voila, we're in a dominant sort of territory because we have that leading tone, and typically that leading tone moves up to our tonic. So we can see that through line, flat 7, natural, raised 7, tonic. The other one, this is one that's more important, is the E flat, that flat 3. We think, what is this a half step away from? It's a half step away from E natural. You could move up to E natural, but it doesn't really do much, per se. Doesn't say it wouldn't pop up, but it doesn't really push into our dominant, which is what we're going to be observing and viewing a lot. If we think about how it moves to dominant, the other way, flat 3 moves down to 2, an essential part of our dominant harmony. So we can see where the flat 7 can move up to the raised 7, our leading tone, and the flat 3 can move down to 2 notes that are essential for our 5 chord. The other chord we're going to see part of this modal mixture is the sixth chord. So let's observe what we have for C major. We have that A minor chord, A, C, E. Now, if we go up to the top, we have A flat, C, E flat. So the two different chord tones here are going to be A flat and E flat. So what this does, it creates, we're going from A minor, when we lower those two notes, A flat, E flat, what that gives us is a flat six. Now, if we're in the context of a major key, what we're going to see is flat six. I've already gotten a few emails saying, is that a typo? Nope, it's not. Flat six. So it's an A flat chord in the context of C major. So if we see an A flat major chord in the context of C major, that's a modal mixture chord. So one thing to keep in mind with these modal mixture chords is that we have our kind of very upfront, these are predominant harmonies, the two diminished chord and the minor four chord. And we have two other ones, the flat three chord and a flat six chord. The thing with all four of these, though, is that they typically, when they're introduced, they continue through to the dominant chord. So it's not like we'll get introduced to like a flat six and then go to our regular major key modes. More often than not, composers will take that harmony and find a way for that to continue to maybe another modal mixture chord, like flat six, which could go to minor four, and then to our five chord. So they'll use this to continue to our dominant. And we'll find it's a way to not only color and add some dramatic flair, which for art song, we're seeing a lot of drama, a lot of emphasis in text painting, but it's also a way to kind of expand out a phrase model into, by nature of that, making it more interesting, ways for kind of composers to work out some more ideas through sort of expansion of the phrase model. One place where this is kind of different, where we'll see a diminished two as a modal mixture, minor four is a modal mixture, flat three is a modal mixture, and a flat six is a modal mixture that usually push towards the dominant and remain modal mixture until then. Minor one, when we kind of borrow that one, we'll see that one pop back to major one. So that one's a little bit more flexible. So if you see a minor one and then a regular one, it's fine. Schubert does this a lot. As mentioned earlier in the video, he likes to set his songs up with a little bit of harmonic ambiguity right off the bat. Now, the other thing to consider is that the flat three, E flat major here, thinking of E flat major in the context of C major, that one, if we think about our kind of way that we've seen secondary dominant chords operate before, E flat major, we can think right off the bat, oh my goodness, that's a fifth of A flat, the other one. So we might see that E flat as a dominant function to move to that A flat chord. Might be freaky to see, but it's a way for composers to move. So they might go E flat major in the context of C major, A flat major, and then maybe minor four or diminished two, and then five, and then there we are back at one. So over a long term, we might see that sort of little tonicization of this bit of the parallel minor mode in the context of a larger phrase model, as opposed to just sort of a little bit of borrowing. Oh, here's a minor four in a standard 1, 3, minor 4, 5, 1. We might see outside of just a little bit of borrowing, we might see it kind of more fully integrated as a touching off into a different mode, but still following the phrase model of the home key. That's it for this. Try this out, the same exercise, going through, writing it out. Again, if you're a tactile person like me, try it out in different keys. Try to do at least 6 keys, writing them out. And we're going to be seeing some homework coming up next week. We're a little bit behind in the syllabus, by the way, so don't worry about a test next week. We're not even there yet. As expected, it just gets behind. And this weekend, I got way behind. So we're not at a test yet, so we're still working with modal mixture. We actually just introduced it. We're going to see some homework where we're doing a little bit more composition. I've been kind of peppering that in. And we're going to be talking about how to move to close and distant related keys, and using some of these modal mixture and predominant harmonies as well. So along with doing these analysis of art songs and some of the other things we've seen like string quartets, a little bit from piano music, not only looking at the harmonies, but check out the textures and how composers are using them in a sort of a motivic way, and in a sort of harmonic function way, how those two things work together, how the texture of the music usually kind of coincides with the harmonic function, seeing how those sort of pull together to make overarching phrases. So we're going to see a little bit more composition assignments coming up, which as a composer, I like those a little bit more than cut and dry four voice stuff. I'm more, as you may have noticed, I'm really into going over literature and seeing how these things are used by actual composers, and for us to be able to use them as tools. They're just harmonic tools. All right, so thank you for stopping by, and I will be uploading another reading that goes into some more in-depth voice leading aspects of these modal mixture chords. All right, as usual, shoot me an email if you're unsure of anything or just have a question. I'm always here, and have a great day. Bye.